Oh, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Itsy Bitsy Spider tapes, as I'm calling this series. I'm running a Kickstarter for my search and find book, Where's Itsy Bitsy Spider? It's currently about 120% funded, so we're doing very well. Thank you, everybody, for backing and supporting. Still a chance, we're still... Kickstarter runs through Thursday at 2, and I've been running a series of live streams talking to, friends of mine who are cartoonists or have some product or something they're speaking about. And today I've invited my good friend Greg. He's a cartoonist from the Bay Area, Caricaturist. Hi, Greg.
Yes. Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And of course, we have Dale Sipley, my regular co-host here as well. Here we go. There's Dale. So yeah, you guys met once or twice before, yes?
Yes, on a number of occasions.
Draw and chill.
Yes. And then I think the first time was at one of your movie events for Zardon.
Oh,
I hate to bring it up. I might have opened a can of worms.
Yes, that's another thread. And yes, if we run out of things to talk about, we'll talk about Zardoz.
That's perfect. That's what it's made for, I'm pretty sure.
You can talk about Zardoz when the world fails.
The greatest movie ever made.
Yes. So I'm bringing up the back, putting you full screen here for a minute so you can have a little look at all your art behind you. That's lovely. Your wall of fame.
Yeah. There it all is. Some of them is from the 30 or 31 day caricature.
So you did that earlier this year.
Yeah.
But I've seen people doing it at different times. So
they're like, some people are still doing it. I think they're still catching up. It's quite a lot though.
Yes, 30 days of caricature. Yeah. I mean, or 31 days, I guess, if it's January. So that's like a lot of drawing. That was good. I've never completed a drawing challenge. I don't think. Apart from
really?
Cat July, like my own one, Cat July, where I made the rule was.
You completed that, didn't you?
But the rule on that one was that it was super easy, right? You could zero standard. You could do a 2-second cat drawing.
Just draw a cat. It was like that's the whole point of the, just draw a cat.
Yeah,
that's all you do. You can do that once a day.
Well, I did.
And you did.
Yes, cats. We had a debate on the show last week, which is better, cats versus dogs. But dogs didn't really show up for that debate at all, and so cats won hands down.
Wow. Jeez. I mean, cats have been like,
but they missed the actual debate.
Right. So. Cats have been like crushing it since like the early 2000s, pretty much since the internet came up.
Yeah. I mean, they crushed. Did you see that? There was a great movie on Netflix recently, or Amazon. It was on the Illuminated Life of Louis Elmer or something. What's his name? And he was a Victorian artist who was he was a bit of a sort of kind of brilliant guy who could draw with two hands at once.
Oh,
and it was played by Cumberbatch, Benedict Cumberbatch. I don't know.
Of course.
Care about him, but he did very good because he was doing doing these cat drawings that are being published in papers, and they got incredibly popular in Victorian. So it was like a precursor of sort of cat fame now. Little cute little cats wearing clothes, doing everyday things.
It does sound like very Victorian too, doesn't it?
It was very Victorian. They sort of, they came up with all this sort of sentimentality sort of stuff. I don't know. Sometimes I think we're going back a little bit towards Victorian values. In that regard,
easily.
But, hopefully, we're moving in better in other regards.
Right. Fingers crossed.
Tina says hello here.
Oh, hey, Tina. How's it going?
So
can't answer back.
Yeah. So, Greg, tell us more about how you got into caricature and doing that.
Oh, yeah. So I was
going to a theme park or something.
Yeah, correct. Yes. Which, for caricature snobs, it's that's the place you got to be. You got to be in the theme park because there's all the energy. Children screaming and stuff on the roller coasters. I didn't even realize that, but I would just hear that that was just every 10 minutes. I would hear a collection of screams,
so
and that was just normal.
You start hearing the screams when you draw a caricature now.
Yeah, easily I would, from the person I'm drawing sometimes maybe. Yeah. But so I started because I was at school. I was at a community college, starting off in school, going for design but I was taking some drawing classes, and I would see like a ad for a job there for drawing caricatures at the local Six Flags.
Okay, so you were at community college and you saw an ad like okay, I'm sort of talking about this with my son right now. Is that like the college is closed?
Okay.
And
all right.
they
got digital ads now, I suppose.
Normally, college would sort of connect you somewhat with jobs, or job opportunities, students, and things like that. Yes.
Well, that's the thing. That's where like that kind of has like some benefit is having like some live experience with other people. Because I'm like super shy, honestly.
Yes.
And I was like, "Oh, you're not good enough for this. Don't do it."
Oh, I struggled with that a lot my whole career. I still do.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It's just normal.
And so there was like a woman I was like drawing with, and we were becoming friends and stuff. And she worked there, and she was like, "Hey," I was like, why don't you apply off? And I was like, "Hey, I don't think I'm good enough." And she's like, "No, you can totally do it." She was like, "Do it." And
that's
so
what you learn over time is that you're really good, but other people will be like, oh, and I sort of remember. I remember there was kids at school who'd be like, "Oh, you're really great," and I was, still a kid then. So I must have abilities, I don't know. But I don't see that I ever do. Yeah.
No, it's true. So like so that's how I got it. So luckily it was for this woman who like I'm Facebook friends, but I don't get to talk to her anymore as much as I used to. But it's like her coming across her and being like so like I guess positive and trying it out, like made me want to do the same for other artists. So that was like a really cool moment in my life, and like started me becoming a caricature artist essentially.
Yes. Okay, so you just sort of went in, you like say, yeah, you're good enough.
Yeah, which is also for me is the caricature artist attitude, which is just trial by fire. Like when I started my like working for money, like I probably had a week of training, if that. In fact, my first time drawing was for like a genuine gig. Like I had to drive somewhere because like I finished my shift. It was like I think it was like 4th or 5th day of like training. And what your training was, you just go there and you just either draw people constantly, or sometimes you just draw lines just for like hours, lines and circles. Training for it, and we did airbrush too. Oh. That is, I know, Dale. It was so brutal. Like I would have to, like my hand would be like, "No, this isn't natural. You're not supposed to do this, Greg." I'm like, "Well, I want to be a character artist. I need to do it." And so, like, it was painful, like trying to like conform my hand, and I had to practice that. You're not good at that for like a year, essentially. Like you're just going to be like
adding to, so you do your line drawing and then you add some airbrush
with a pencil
to it. Yeah.
Right. And then we do a blending stump to shade, and then we'd finish off an airbrush. And
what year was this?
Okay, so this is like 2006, 2007.
Wow,
so,
that way.
Yeah. I mean, like I feel like airbrush.
Guy. He's following the youth demographic on this show. Yeah.
Right. That's it. We're in trouble. I'm the young demographic.
Oh my god, I feel old. Yeah.
So I don't know. I can't tell you if airbrush is still in or not. But yeah, I mean, airbrush was going strong in the 2000s. Although, like most people were doing art sticks for sure. I think airbrush was definitely looked like oh, that's like a party trick, But if you do it good,
I don't know that term, art sticks.
Art sticks essentially is like a color pencil. But it's without the wood. It's only like the I don't know, it's like a wax or something like that. But like I don't know, I don't even know what I was saying. It was it was just I did a gig. That was my first time. And a gig is like you go to a separate location because they paid you hourly to draw for a birthday party, bar mitzvah, a city function. Sometimes you can be with a room full of rich people. It goes from like here to there. But like this one, which is the most popular, is like a high school lock-in. Like you make bank. The high school lock-in seasons, you're like, oh, my belly's full. I'm fat because I'm getting money. High school lock-in.
So it's a very good source of income for
but that was like my first
be a caricature artist and do that.
Yeah. For sure.
I never did it like you do, but I would always have, parents, friends. It would seem very popular in England. Like people will always be asking,
definitely.
Do me a caricature, and so I do it. But it wasn't really my first love to do that. But I think I got a sort of reasonably good at it over the years. But no, I never really went through that sort of, during it all day, every day, like you would have done in a job.
Thank God. Yeah. I just remember like some days it would be because it's Missouri and like people think like, oh, it's winter, so it's kind of cold, right? Like, no, that winter is like a blip. It's like an ice cube on like compared to the sweltering like humidity of the summer. Like out here in the Bay, like you can escape the heat by going to
here it's relatively
like there's no escaping it. It's around you. It's like a soup. You're just breathing in like just vapor soup, pollen soup essentially. And so like it would just be like so hot, and it'd be a black top. And like I wouldn't even want to reach in my pocket because it'd be like just damp. My wallet be tangled up, and I would just be zapped out of energy just from like baking in the sun and just drawing all day. And be like, like I'll get my wallet later when I muster up the energy.
So, how long? Tell me about caricatures at the amusement park. Were you just working the summer season or on weekends? Or
so because it was Missouri, we had to close during the season to draw in the snow. It's crazy. Like so like we would go from like let's say I think maybe around May. Think so. Sometimes March. Depends. I think it did depend sometimes. And then you go into like early November. Probably first week.
About how many people would you draw a day?
Oh my God. Let's see here. I don't know. Like I was like there could be like a slow day where I didn't draw anyone. That's a punch in the gut. Because we were all commissioned. So if you didn't draw anyone, you're not making any money, All
right, but then what would it be like on a busy day?
Well, on a busy day, oh God, I've heard people like Jeremy Townsend, the legend himself, like he would like he could get like I think he got up to like 100 people possibly.
Wow. You do 100 in a day.
For me, I felt like. That was like the heydays of caricatures. Like I came in when caricatures was like, ooh, and the park itself was mean. It was still decent, but it wasn't making like how it used to make. And when I came in, I could probably do like 60. I think that's 60, 75 maybe. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So how long is that day? 8 hours, 10 hours?
Yeah, it was typically an 8-hour day.
8-hour shift.
Yeah, it was always an 8-hour shift.
So that's like 4 or 5 people per hour.
Yeah. On a busy day, dude, it would be like a line, and it'd be like so long.
The next one, sit down. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I can see how you get good fast. Just that amount of practice.
That's arguable. That I got good fast. I mean, there was some artists like there's an artist who's now he's mainly a graphic designer. His name's Judd Lively, and that's a guy like I never talked to too much, but he like stood out to me because boom, right when he got there, he was like he just got there, But like for me, I felt like to understand actually drawing caricatures probably took me like 4 months. 3 to 4 months to actually understand just the drawing portion, the airbrush portion. I never figured it out, but like I got decent after 2 or 3 years of doing that. Yeah. And then around that time is when I probably became, like 2 years is when I became, oh yeah, he's a decent caricaturist. That guy's like not bad.
Were you looking at the other artists' work in the park? Were you reading books on caricature? What were you doing to get better?
I'm not a strong reader, so I didn't read too much. There was books that gave us, which was like little how-tos. I mean, it was Tom Richmond's company, which is like
I'm going to ask you.
Whoa!
Yeah. Oh, hold on, right here, his original. Boom, I put that up.
Oh yeah, there we go. That's nice.
There's the signature. Yeah.
Yes.
So that
Well, yes. So if people don't know
flat.
Tom Richmond, he's the he took over really from Mort Drucker as the sort of main man.
Yeah.
Artist guy. So yeah, he's doing all those sort of serials with the realistic. I don't know how to describe them. I'd say they're sort of realistic. They're very realistic caricatures or something. He's
kind of
distorts, but he keeps the basic laws of sort of anatomy and everything in place.
Yeah,
I compare them to like
really hold up for those movie star.
All
the movie stars. Over 5 pages, and there's a lot of work he's doing in one of those. Yeah, so he came and gave a talk at the Cartoon Art Museum, and I met him a couple of times now. So yeah, he's a lovely guy. So did you meet him as part of the school?
Yeah. I mean, not through the school, but through the job. He'd come down
through the job. Yeah,
like once a season. Like he would come down. And,
so he would come around. But he operates this company that does
Richmond Illustrations. I think it's still called that. Yeah, Richmond Illustrations. And yeah, he'd come down and then he'd watch us and he'd give us pointers. And he'd take us out to eat afterwards.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, it was a celebrity.
Yeah.
And then like my manager's
celebrity, and he's
easily. I've been like I've gone to like ISCA con, which now they're IGSCA. Because they're going galactic, apparently. It's like international galactic. I don't know, something like that.
Yes.
But anyway,
find your way of rights across this universe and all
multiverse. It kind of felt right. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. That's caricatures. But like, I've talked to him at a con, and then like as soon as I stopped talking, someone's like, "Hey, Tom, how many?" They just like muscled in on our conversation. And I don't know. It's like I see him a little bit more, so feel free to talk, I guess.
Yeah, well, he's a very sociable guy. He's very willing to talk. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. He's really nice. Very funny too. Honestly.
Yeah, great. So yes, okay. So then, all right. So your style. So I wouldn't say your style to me when I look at it. I don't think, that's a typical sort of theme park caricature style. Which is I mean that's a very broad generalization. You've got quite a unique sort of style, like your lines and the colors and everything. So so how did your style evolve over the years of doing it? Yeah.
That's a good question. So naturally, you start off with Tom Richmond's, like you copy of Tom Richmond. To answer what Dale was asking, you kind of like you definitely look at other artists. You look, there's like caricatures all around the booth, so you look at the caricatures and like you kind of copy for sure. And like the basics of what you're drawing is essentially Tom Richmond style. So that's where like I guess you could say the root of it starts. And then my influences will branch around me of like people I worked with for sure. People of I can like point out would be like Anthony Patty Shot. He's a really good artist. Zach Ford is pretty good. Ryan Rowe, he like trained me in caricatures, and he's like he was like training people for like 10 years at that stand. So and he saw like he worked for Jeremy Townsend and a lot of other Ed Steckley was his manager.
Ed Steckley, yes.
So he knew him, and he knew like a lot of caricature artists because he would go to like the ISCA conventions. I think they were called NGC or something like that before. I don't remember. But like so he trained me, and so he had a huge part of my influence. So I'd probably say like he might be more the basics of what my caricatures spawned from, like Tom and him.
Yeah, so I read Tom Richmond's book, and he talks a lot about this sort of triangle of the face, and like the position of the which bits you're going to distort and which bits you aren't, and all that. I mean, he's definitely got a methodology there. And if you read his book, he really tells you everything you need to know.
He's knowledgeable, and I'd say his book is like probably one of the best caricature books. Like it's not cliche, like it's genuine, it's real. Like the things that he's telling you, it's the stuff I learned. Like this is like this. It's real, like drawn in the park type of caricatures, or drawn digitally type of caricatures.
So there's very different sort of styles of it, isn't there? Yes. So like drawing in the park is a very that's very improvisational. I compare it a lot with sort of music and stuff.
And a lot. Like I said,
or something like that. You're sort of there. And you're doing it in the raw, and you draw something live in front of people, then people are sort of more excited, or some people are, that you just drew it right there. Even, like I've been there, like where I've done it, people go, you're really drawing it right there in front of me. And even if I'm not doing such a great drawing, I get a very sort of positive reaction.
Right.
But other people, of course, are like, oh, that.
No, it's true. That's true. There's like a magic to it, right? Because you're like, and it took me a while to be like, yeah, I'm like performing magic for them, especially when you need the airbrush. Yes. I still remember like someone like, well, I wasn't as good as it, but my manager was really good at it, and he would Ryan Rowe, and people like, ooh, get a load of him. It's slicker than poo.
Yes.
He's like, would you like sir? Then I'm like, that's a compliment. This is Missouri, by the way. I have to remind you. So like,
Missouri. So
and you are right. Like for me personally, even today, like I feel like I can draw better live than I can from a picture. Because I can just seize a 3-dimensional form. Like I get more information, I have more understanding, and then and that pressure on you does it either breaks you or it like gets you to like you're Superman, like you're like on the next level. Like if you're on it, it's like and that pressure hits you, like it brings the best out of you sometimes.
Did you do any underdrawing or did you go straight to ink?
So like starting off training, it was like my manager took the razor, chucked it. You're not using this thing. Don't use it, especially as you're starting off. Like you're not using it all. And so like I say like a year or so I didn't even sketch.
That's a good tip for kids out there. Yes, I've sort of started
very much so.
Just try and go right in with pen, and it's very frightening because you're like, oh, when you're young, you're like, oh, I want to erase, or
you want to control it.
You're stuck with what you did,
Yeah, you want to be in control of it. That's like a natural feeling, right?
Yeah, we have an argument here. Did you start with the eyes or do you start with the nose?
Oh, eyes easily. I mean, so Dale, if you're doing a 3/4, I've heard that typically you start with the nose, but straight on is typically eyes. I mean, but yeah, every caricature is going to be different for sure. But like, I feel like
the eyes really hold the expression, though, Dale. The eyes are so key to the expression, and so they sort of going to determine the rest of the thing a lot of the time. And if you sort of get them wrong, later, too late. You might get totally the wrong sort of expression on your face, and then you're like, okay, well.
The whole head hangs off the nose.
What is it?
I'm sure that's the opposite.
I know.
Before
I just imagine like little legs or arms.
Before you were a caricature artist and you were in the JC doing drawing, were you doing life drawing? Were you drawing the model?
Well, just in class and stuff. Like I really wouldn't do. I draw like. This is probably why my style is so like weird and like different. Is like I draw like a lot of like I'm influenced by anime, by cartoons, which isn't too far off from caricatures, honestly.
Really I don't see a lot of anime in your work. That one comment you said about the what was it, the super dog? It was sort of
laser dog.
Laser dog, yeah. So that felt a little more sort of anime-ish.
Oh, for sure.
In its execution, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't really.
Well, because like my earliest influences is just drawing in general. Was like Genndy Tartakovsky, and Genndy Tartakovsky was like really good at like fusing, having anime influences within like cartoony type of Western traditional like American style. Well, not that traditional, more 90s. I guess now it'd be considered traditional because it's old now. Yeah. Well, like that 90s style. Yeah. So like
Jack guy.
So whereas though you don't really see anime, but there's that influence. Like it's there. Yeah. Like it's just really like I guess.
Yeah.
As a kid, were you reading comics or comic strips or any specific TV cartoons or?
I'm very embarrassed because I am not a strong reader. I did have comics. I wouldn't read it too much, but I would look at it. So there's stuff like I would definitely like influence. And I just like, it's not to like about comics. Like if there's just a comic book, you just gotta like it. Well, especially as a kid, because they're just freaking fun, way more fun. But like I was more into like cartoons, like just watching cartoons, constantly watching cartoons. When Cartoon Network came about, this is how old I am. Like like which is like a crazy because I work with kids now and they're like, what was that like 80 years ago? Like no, like it wasn't that long ago when it came out. That was like 24/7 cartoons finally. That night. Not just and so like the 90s era of like cartoons, which is like a great era for like I guess like pushing the boundaries type of like very out there, super funny cartoons that came from the 90s. A lot of it did, like Rocko's Life. Red and Stimpy was definitely one of my earliest influences, and which like the Spunko like whole the whole Spunko like company is just a caricature artist. What's her name? Something Meeks, Milo Meeks or Milo. I don't know. I forget her name. I mentioned her earlier. She was like a big caricature artist when I was going to like ISCA. She does this really cool caricature of this one guy, and all she did was drew a balloon and a rat taped to it, and then put glasses on it, and it looked like him. And that's all it was. She was pretty brilliant. I don't know if she ever won a Golden Nosy, but she always gets silver or bronze or something.
Okay. Like I don't know. I'm looking up Milo Meeks. I'm not.
Yeah, I'll have to.
Meeks? No.
I mentioned her earlier but I can't remember her names.
Well, yes.
Her information soon. I guess after this. But so also like when I started off with like Tom and my manager Ryan Rowe as my biggest influence, and then like later on I started to go to caricature conventions, and that's when I was starting to become like
so caricature conventions. Yeah, what are they like?
So they're actually pretty darn cool. They're super expensive, but you go once. That's all I always say.
So they're expensive to attend or to exhibit at?
To attend. To exhibit at, like, there's no real tables or anything.
They don't really have tables. Okay.
No. It's like, so like typically it's a competition, and so like you get like a wall and has your number on it or name possibly, and then that's where you put your drawings up, and so you draw everyone, and then a convention center is like open 24/7, and so you can just like draw as much as you want, and like that was probably the most beneficial, like most wisest decision was me going to that convention, because I just saw my style improve or my artwork improve within the week, and I was like, this is nuts. Like, I'm not even like no one's telling me anything. Yeah, no one's like really talking. No one's like, we're all drawing, and yet like I'm somehow like bettering myself. And because
who are you drawing?
What's that?
Who are you drawing?
The other artists. So yeah, all the other artists draw each other essentially, or there's anyone in that room, very much. Like
when you can,
yeah. So you don't draw celebrities in this one; you draw like each other essentially.
Okay.
And so you get like artists around the world, genuinely, and you're like, "What caricature is this big? What? Huh?" And they're like the best artists, and I mean like not even just best caricaturists, best artists in general I have ever met in my entire life, and it was also a good experience because I went there, and for different people this might not be a good feeling, but for me this was always like, this is how I was able to progress as an artist, was like I came to there and I was like, oh Greg, you are not a good artist. You're not a good artist at all. Like, you got a lot to learn, bud, and it was like really humbled me, but put me into a place where I wanted to learn. Like that humility, and so like I always try to carry that feeling as I learn and as I draw. And within a week, my art like improved crazily.
Yeah,
it's nuts.
That's great. Yes, we've talked a little bit sort of about this the struggle of sort of feeling like Travis Hansen was saying if you feel like you've sort of got there, then you're probably not really doing anything interesting anymore. And and then I mentioned a quote recently that I read from Frank Herbert of Dune, and he said that he couldn't tell the bits that had come when he read back over it. He couldn't tell where he'd done something and be very easy, or when it had been really hard and he'd really struggled with it. When he'd go back and look at his own work, he couldn't remember.
Oh, really?
Tell which bits had come easy and which bits are hard.
Right.
So yes, those are sort of aspects of sort of learning and striving to better yourself, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the worst thing an artist can do, and I've seen this, like especially I don't know, the caricature scene, it happens. I feel like it probably happens to every artist, though, honestly, where they get to like they peak too early, and then they plateau because they feel like, oh yeah, I've learned everything. Like, oh yeah.
Well, yes, you can, as a cartoonist, you can, if you get very successful at a certain thing, and then and it's popular, then boom, you can just sort of do that, and then you sort of like cookie cutter them out.
Right. Especially if your audience is like, oh, what? Oh, it's great. you know, because then
Yeah.
like
They're
you
always-
don't
yes.
need you don't need to push it. You don't need to push yourself,
Right.
right? But like I don't know. That's well, I mean, as an educator now, I talk about growth mindset and the ideas like you're supposed to always be learning and always trying because you're not. I mean, perfection
Yes.
is impossible. It's like you can't obtain it, so you got to always reach for it. You always work for it because you'll get close to it. You'll get better. Like you should be always getting better. Even as hopefully I'll be better. Like in 10 years from now, I'll be a better artist. Hopefully. You know?
Yes, there's another good quote I heard, and this came up the other day and something else, but yeah, David, I heard it from David Bowie. He said, you know, the best place to be creatively is like you wade out into the ocean to where your feet just almost can't quite touch the bottom, like just sort of on the tips of your toes. You're not totally out of your depth, but you're also not sort of just comfortable. You know, you're sort of paddling about. And when I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, I sort of understand that because yes, when you're doing something exciting and challenging, you don't quite know. You don't want to be totally out of your depth. Yeah.
Well, I think it's like human nature to want to be comfortable, right? And like I think if you just keep crushing it, like that, the taste of failure will sting, like more as you just keep crushing it. Like you know, like losing will hurt for sure. And, you know, people, you know, it's natural not wanting to lose. But I that's why I always admired artists because artists like you embrace losing, like you want to experience loss, you know, because it's only going to make you stronger and smarter.
Yes.
Greg, if you're always learning, are you doing this formally or informally? Are you looking at other artists' work? Are you watching YouTube videos on caricature? Are you doing caricature gigs just for the practice? How are you learning and growing as an artist?
Oh yeah, good question, Bill. Like I'm doing informal, honestly. Like I really am just like studying a lot and drawing and just practicing drawing, just putting the energy into drawing and trying to draw as much as possible. I'm not back to like every day. Again, you know, it's I don't know, I just don't have the patience for it or the drive for it, you know. But I don't know. Like anything I watch, which is mainly anime, cartoons, honestly now, and the news. it's about it. But like when it comes to anime and cartoon, I'm always like kind of like it's kind of it's a double-edged sword. So I don't know if you want to practice this yourself, but I'm always like just like thinking like, oh, can I use that? Can I use this? Oh yeah, that's cool. I want to use that. Oh wow, this is inspiring. I wonder how I can, you know, like I'm always just thinking like that, can I adapt something from this? And same with like life experiences, because I write stories and stuff. So I'm just like, oh, can I use this for something?
You do a little bit of writing, and you used to make some very simple little videos, like I guess over the pandemic, or one little video I saw where you just were doing a little storytelling, and I thought, you know, it's very crude, like what you were doing, you know, very basic little things that you were moving about, but your voice just was great, and I thought, oh yeah, you have a really
I've heard this
storytelling voice, and the way that you did it just sounded really good, and you know, to the very simple elements that you were sort of animating. You know, you added so much just with adding the voice on.
It was like popsicle sticks. I think it was like a little puppet.
Yes, popsicle sticks. Yes.
I also
back to sort of things I would see as a child in the 70s. It's very basic, and somebody's just like telling the story, and the voice of the narrator.
Well, that's to my point. Like I saw that on TikTok. I saw some artists doing that. And a lot of me doing stuff is just like, I could do that. Like, you know, so like I was like, I could do that better too. I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
And so like
how I was with the search books. I was
right? You just do it. I mean, I'm also of the principle of like, you know, artists just do. They just do it. You know, don't like, you know, maybe you don't have all the supplies and maybe you're not completely ready. And this is also a caricature mindset. It's like, yeah, you're not ready, but just do it anyway. Because it's only gonna help you. It's only you're gonna learn from that experience. If you just, first off, I don't think it's miserably failing if you produce something. So you didn't fail, you produced something, right? So if you produce something, maybe it's not where you want it to be, but that's a start off point. Like you're gonna learn from that, then decipher that, like figure out where you want to go from here. Like what do you need to improve, and but also just as importantly, what do you like about what you did? You know, because that's also is important. You know?
Oh yes, that's
be nice to yourself.
Look at what you like about it. Yes, because I'm always I'll go back to something and then I'll be sort of two reactions. I'll either be like, oh my god, you know, why did I do that? It's terrible. Or I'll be looking at it going like, oh my god, how did I do that? That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always like, even with things I'm pleased with, I'm always like stuff I could do better. Like, you know, I'm always looking at it. Yeah, because that's it's another, I feel like, character philosophy, which is like you always learn more from what I'll say this: you learn more from what you do wrong than what you do right. You know, like from what you do wrong as an artist, like teaches you a lot. There's a lot that it can tell you. You know, as opposed to like from what I do right, I feels good, but I always feel like oh yeah, that's successful. I don't have to worry about it so much. I gotta worry about where I'm not succeeding, you know, as an artist. But you gotta be nice to yourself too.
Well,
Now,
yeah, that's.
oh, go
Dale,
on.
what are you gonna say?
No, Jeff, go on.
Well, I was going to I'll ask you a little bit. So now, so you moved into sort of education. So you're doing like art teaching to kids in schools now. Yes,
Yeah.
right. Yes. So that's there's a lot of artists who supplement their income by doing teaching and things. I've done I did sort of a little bit of volunteer teaching, but I was getting paid at it at one point at my son's school and stuff like that. So done it a little bit, but yeah. So yeah, how are you finding that? Is that has that helped to improve you as an artist teaching young kids?
Yeah, crazily, yes.
Yes,
It's insane because it had me like thinking on how to. So I had a trained artist. This is not my first time teaching. I had a trained artist after a while drawing characters back at Six Flags, and whenever I trained them, I would have to tell them like, hey, I can tell you as much as I can tell you, but at some point, I don't have words for it because it's just practice. It's just experience. Like you just need to gain that. I can't tell you exactly everything how I'm doing it because I don't even know how to do it because I'm just just routine and repetition. But like now that I've gotten older and I have to be in a place where I have to think about it, and not only talk about like drawing but also mediums I have no idea about, like like clay and stuff. It kind of did elevate my game. It made me like want to notice like not only other people and how they like would create, but also myself and how I create as well. And it also gave me I found words for some of the things I didn't have words for when I was training like 10 years ago. Like all of a sudden I have like the words for it. So it's like over time, there's still things I don't know how I'm able to do it, but over time I'm just finding more words for it. Like,
well, yeah, I'm always very impressed with your ability to sort of get a likeness with, so I call this episode Extreme Caricature because, yes, your style's sort of quite extreme. It's sort of quite minimal. You're using sort of, colorful lines.
Yes.
But the lines don't even quite join up. There's a lot of sort of gap, but somehow, at the end, you get a really good likeness of,
I'm like always surprised myself, Chuck. Like more like this last one. Like this last one, I probably got the most likenesses. And like I don't know. I say for live caricatures, I'm pretty good at getting the likeness, but drawing from picture, it's hard. It's usually hard for me. It's usually
So that's a different thing. Yes, so we talked to you're drawing live, and then that's a sort of improvisational thing, like a musician might be a busker or something like that. Or when I do the search and find books, I'm sort of making it up a lot of the time as I go. Versus something where it's sort of a more planned drawing where you're sort of very careful and you think it out. But even with that, at some level, you've got to make your mark. And your mark, I always find that the mark that I make is never exactly maybe the one that I had in my head, or sometimes it is.
I know what you mean.
It's the mark that I got,
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it. Hey, this is what you're working with, this is who you're working with here. It's that mark right there. Yeah. Take it from there, like you can do it. You can turn this. Well, and that's why I tell like
aspect to a caricature or anything or any figure that you draw, like the emotion that you sort of get off them and that you put into the drawing, that's sort of what tends to carry through,
right? Which is hard to do. Not every caricature artist is able to do that. I think a good caricaturist, like a master, should be able to do that, is to have personality. But that's like how do you like what is that, like how do you describe it? I think like Joe Bloom, what he would do, he said, like, I think in his book, which was like I forget. It's like his most famous book, which is like his first one, which was like returns of drawings that he would do, which I would get a lot of returns. Joe Bloom. Yeah, he doesn't even come up as one of like the most famous caricature artists, which is weird. He totally is. Like JoeBluhm, I believe.
Okay.
And he would say like whenever you got someone coming down, they would go like that, like would start cheesing, and he would like to have conversation with them because then he could see like their natural when they're relaxed, and then see like their natural face and like little like maybe like little winks or little things that their face would do, or that their body would do when they're relaxed. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes. This is.
So yeah, you would talk, and so like those like type of like natural relax when you're in a position when you're not really thinking about anything like that. That's kind of like where your spirit of the caricature would lie in, you know, because like that kind of like how you relax is going to be different from how another person relaxes. So like that's going to tell you, oh, that's my stuff.
Yes, it's all yours now. Yeah.
But you know, like when you're relaxed, that will be like your kind of identity, right? You know,
that's a good one with the kid here. That you got a good likeness there. Kids are quite difficult to do, aren't they?
Yeah, I always say make sure they got a big old forehead. That's kind of is like the
a big forehead. That's the key to a kid.
Yes, because like genuinely, and there's science, I promise you, behind this. So like when you're born, all the mass is in the top of your head, right?
Okay.
You know, to the point where it might even be a cone or whatever. But like like when a baby is born, usually like parents will freak out. Like my kid's got a cone head, but the doctor's like, don't worry, it will go down because of gravity.
Son was pulled out, like they had the suction cup, and the head gets really pulled up.
Yeah, I know. But it gets normal because of gravity over time.
Yes.
And then so as you get older, your face just gets pulled down essentially. And then it elongates to the point where if you get so old, you'll get to a point where like, you know, your skin is almost dripping off of you, you know? So like as a child, all your mass is gonna be up here. So big foreheads is always it would be my advice.
Also, your eyes as a child are almost the same size as your eyes will be when you're an adult.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
The thing I always liked about drawing older faces is that as you get older, your bones don't grow when you're an adult, but the cartilage in your nose and your ears keep growing. And get as people get older, their noses and ears get bigger, and there's all sorts of character. There's all sorts of character in the nose and the ears.
For sure.
All this great stuff around the eyes.
Yeah. You get to draw it all now. Like, I don't know. It's not really like always welcomed for like, especially if you're drawing for like, you know, for people and stuff. But yeah, I love that stuff, Dale. Like, I love like drawing like, you know, I don't know, flesh essentially, you know, and like old people got it in spades, you know.
Okay, I've got to ask. Do you remember what airbrush you used? Was it an Iwata?
Oh, easy. It was Iwata. I can't tell you what number it was. It was one of the older models. I know. Oh no, actually, I did. I had a newer model from that time. So around I got 2007, 2008 model, but it was an Iwata.
I miss those.
Do they all make them anymore?
No. There's a great place in LA. I haven't been there since the pandemic started. It's in Anaheim. It's called Coast Airbrush. I think it's like one of the last retail airbrush stores. If you go there and you're an airbrush fan, it's a religious experience.
I might have to check it out. I'm not a huge airbrush fan, but just because I have such a person, I had a relationship with it, you know, Dale. I feel like I should check this out, man.
But this is your work that we're watching.
Apparently, this is an old one too.
Okay, well, I just thought, it was a quite a cool video, just sort of showing some process here, and you know how you're doing your drawings by hand, and then you know compiling it in Photoshop and all this sort of stuff, which is a lot. I do this a lot too. So yes, this is this is how we work. You know, it's a bit like sort of seeing how the cookies baked or whatever. Like a lot of time you do the art, and you're like, wow, that's the finished product. And how you define the finished product sort of varies. Like Robert Crumb, I remember reading at one point said, you know, the printed book, as far as he's concerned, is the finished product in comics. You know, there we go.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense, right? I always like, if you want to be a comic artist, you kind of have to make comics, right? You know, it doesn't have to be like a professional level, but you know, like just get it done. Like just me. Like I
yes,
like I
getting it
mentioned earlier.
done is, yes, we've talked about that too. You know, and Andy Warhol has a good quote. You know, is sort of make art, and while other people are deciding if it's any good or not, make more art.
Yeah. That's
Don't
a
judge
lovely
it
one.
yourself. You know, I mean,
Right,
somewhat.
right.
You know, and there's a thing about your sort of internal editor. You know, you sort of at some point you turn them off. You know, you
Yeah,
turn your
for sure.
internal editor only on when you need to do the editing, and not. And not
They're not always that useful, honestly. Like if anything, they get in the way of it, right? Like if you're always just like, no, it's not, like it's not gonna be perfect. Like you have to stop trying to perfect it because you can try to perfect it forever.
Yes, and often the times, yes, and so again, like going back to doing a more detailed drawing or something like that, you know, sometimes I find myself trying to correct things, but I never really do them any better. So
yeah,
somebody else.
it's true. Like sometimes you're just getting a rut, in which you're just going back and forth. And also, I'm at a point too where I say, stop, don't do anymore. You're gonna ruin it because I do. If I just keep like trying to like draw, like trying to fix it, because I'll get into like a quicksand. I'm like, oh, I gotta fix that. Oh, I gotta fix it. Oh, I gotta fix it. And then I'm having a panic attack.
Yeah, you're Chris, my other co-host here, who's not here today, but he's more music oriented, and yes, so he sort of was at one point, you know, very like wanting total control of things, and you know, sort of playing all the instruments and mixing them together and doing, you know, which is a very long, complicated process to sort of do something very sort of fine. And you know, then lately he's just realized, well, I don't really need to do any of that.
That's true.
Down, you know, yeah.
I've gotten back to like just trying to enjoy it. Trying to like have fun, because I also say like this is my theory of art is like I think if you're enjoying it, it's gonna be better, it's gonna look better for sure because you're into it, like you're gonna be way more focused on it. So like I've been trying to get back to just enjoy it, don't worry about like turning this into a profit or into work. Like
like
you
go into banking, kids. There's lots of money to be made in banking.
Exactly. Like I would say that a lot too. It's just like I didn't go into this to make a lot of money. This isn't why I'm like doing that. Like I'm doing this because it's feeds my soul.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I always find it's like a compulsion. It's a bit like a calling or something. If I'm doing something else, I feel like I'm spending my time doing the wrong thing. Right. Like cartoons is definitely the right thing to be doing.
I think so. I might be biased, but I think
there's an idea going on around right now for young artists called the barbell theory, which is kids have to decide, am I going to go to art school and become a professional artist, or do you instead study some other subject that will get you a job, and then rather than be a commercial artist, become an artist in your part-time. That way you can work on the projects that you love.
Right.
And they think that people are more likely to be successful as an artist if you're doing your own work than if you're work for hire for somebody else.
I mean, like for me, that's what I'm doing right now. I honestly I enjoy it a lot. I'd say like you find like a job that's your main job that you like though, and I do like teaching. It came around to it, but like it helped that I was good at it, And so and when you're talking about a calling, that's how I knew it was a calling, because like teaching was definitely something I didn't want to do, but I was good at it. I was like, oh, that's a calling then, isn't it? Something that you don't really want to do, but you're good at it. Oh wow.
You're right about that. Yes,
but Dale, that's not what I teach my kids. Like I kind of teach art now. Like, don't monetize it. Don't focus on like making it money, because I don't think art was ever like that. It's because we live in a society which like it only has value if it has money tied to it. But like art is like
we still invented money to solve our problems, but then we've sort of decided that money, is the solution to the problem, which isn't really. It's sort of a way of solving the problem, but it's not the solution. It's not. It's not all about.
Well, not in art. Not when it comes to art, especially, because art like helps just flex your creativity, and creativity is just a type of intelligence, right? It can be applied to anything.
Well, money is a mean joke on artists because you're making art and then you're exchanging it for prints of somebody else's art.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Well, my father-in-law one time he came around and I was drawing away, and he said, "Are you drawing dollar bills over there?"
Yeah.
No,
You better be.
Greg,
Cut me some.
you prefer
But I hadn't really,
working-
up until that point, I hadn't really thought of it that way. But yes, it's absolutely true.
Right.
Yes, you're drawing this thing. You've got a piece of art on a piece of paper, but somehow the piece of art that's printed by the government on a different piece of paper, that's considered more valuable because, well, the value is in the perceived value because people know that, when somebody doesn't know anything, they go, okay, here's your drawing, here's your dollar bill. Well, I know what the dollar bill. I can take it to somebody else, and they'll tell me it's worth $1. But
I guess.
Drawing, I don't know. That could be worth anything from
You
zero
could argue.
to $1 million,
you could argue that's what NFTs are going to turn into, right? They're like
yes. Well, yes, it's interesting.
Exchangeable art for finance, I guess, like monetary art.
Yeah, they're just.
I think NFTs are just a scam. Right now, they're just like artists paying money to mint
Possibly.
NFTs that are not going to have any value. You pay $100 to mint an NFT.
It depends on how virtual.
It has no value.
It depends on how deeper we go into the internet. Like if society are building chips in their brains, I think NFTs will be like pretty like legitimate then, right? But if it doesn't get
yes, there's one born every minute, so scam relies on an endless supply of suckers. So maybe NFTs have scaled to the point where they're
I said this stuff about the same thing about Twitter and stuff. Like I'm like, this is stupid. Why would anyone use it? And everyone's using it.
Yes, I never got Twitter. I couldn't get Twitter, but I admit that a lot of people. But there's a lot of tweets on Twitter. Sorry, Twitter.
It's art. Yeah, I know. No knock on anyone's hustle. I get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Dale, what were you gonna say? Yeah.
Well, when I saw that you were coloring in what looked like Photoshop, and you were working on what looked like an original pen and ink drawing, what do you prefer to work in, and what are you teaching? What mediums do you like to work in?
Oh yeah. So I usually like to draw in like pencil, pen, and markers. I like to do watercolor as well. And then I don't really do too much leisure digital coloring and stuff. But I do like it. It's satisfying for sure. You get all the colors you want. What's that?
Do you draw digitally?
I do, but I haven't in a while, honestly. I usually draw just pencil and pen. No real like protest against digital art. I mean, the stuff is beautiful. It really is. I don't know. I'm lazy, or I'm old, or I'm just too comfortable with drawing pen.
Well, it's just I've noticed, and when I did caricatures briefly, I did them digitally because I've seen some caricature artists. They'll take something like a tablet to an event, and then they'll have a little die sub printer, and what they end up giving the customer at the end is like a little color print of what they drew. And there's usually a big screen.
Dale, that was smart of you because you can charge more money too.
No, I did it for free, and I did it.
Oh, Dale. Did you learn nothing from this talk? I guess you're actually doing what
I charged what the caricatures were worth.
Right.
I did a wedding, and at some point, people just asked me to draw monsters versus the caricature. They would sit down, and I would completely ignore them, and I draw some storybook character with horns, and beaks, and they loved it.
No, you're a terrible caricature artist.
Anti-caricature.
No, actually, you're probably a revolutionary. This is probably actually a trendsetter.
Well, people liked watching someone sit there and not seeing what I was drawing. And they would draw something completely unrelated to the model.
That's actually funny. This I did like purely in Illustrator, so I didn't do any.
Yeah, this is sort of vector Illustrator. Yeah, so this is this more recent?
Oh no, this is pretty old. Like that's supposed to be me.
This is older. Okay,
yeah.
All right.
That one I think I did pen and ink and then colored it digitally. that's in Illustrator. That's in Photoshop. You sir, I know it's a chubby baby a little while ago. That's in Photoshop. The other ones, oh yeah, that's straight up Illustrator. Yeah, I usually just work in
Oh,
Illustrator.
that's quite interesting for Illustrator. That looks very pen drawn. Yeah.
Yeah, they can be pretty convincing. They got way better with their.
Trumpy in the bath.
No, this is before he became president.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Back when he just seemed like a lovable.
I don't know about lovable, but yeah.
Well, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. No, yeah. I don't.
Yeah,
My wife and I, we like The Apprentice. We watched The Apprentice. I never liked Trump though. I never liked him.
No, he was always kind of a jerk, wasn't he? Like he wasn't like anything new, you know, like or anything surprising.
I noticed the caricatures of him changed after he became president.
They haven't changed.
They had.
Oh yeah, he had smaller hands. And like everyone was like pointing those out. Yeah, these characters are pretty old too.
Yeah, these are great. Okay, so let me ask you a little bit about drawing different ethnicities and stuff like that.
Yeah, please.
You know, I always try to do a lot of diversity in you know the books, and you know sometimes I'll do someone who's got a definite ethnicity. Sometimes the ethnicity only really appears when I color them in. You know, you know,
I see what you mean.
You know, so what do you think are the sort of key things to think?
Well, you know, that's fine if they don't, if that you know you can't notice it from until you color it in. Honestly, that's not bad. I say if you're drawing for most, like, because I'm half black, me personally, and so I feel as though if you draw someone like kind of like looking white, you know, or whitewash, you know, that's kind of like. You know, that's kind of
you want to give them some ethnic features.
Yeah, that's not really good either.
You know, as a white person, then I'm a little worried that I might offend somebody if I go too much into a certain ethnic stuff.
But that is the art of caricatures, though. You know, and honesty, like it's offense is going to happen. You know, even if you're trying to, it's going to offend, right? I think as long as you're not doing like blackface, you know. Stay away from the mammy lips and whatnot, you know.
Yeah, so something that's very sort of stereotype, you know.
But like,
I didn't really think about it. I'm just doing that. Yes.
Right. You know, I could tell you like which features to draw for which people, but you know, really like studying and understanding, looking at different faces, and then drawing from that. You know, just better understanding it. You know, and try not to be. I mean, I understand it can be awkward for sure, but like if you're not of the same race. But like, just lean in on it and just try your best, honestly, you know, and try to always like. I've offended. Yeah, I've offended like people of color with my drawings, and I'm always like, "Oh, my apologies. You wanted someone else to draw you." You know, I always make it them know that I'm not trying to make fun of you. You know, I think everything I drew is like beautiful on you. You know, because that's like the kind of the good thing about caricatures. It's like. To be a caricature artist, you're just honoring the human form in all its forms. Like you're not just representing what we typically see, which is like skinny model type or 6-pack abs type, you know, or even like curvaceous type. Like you're doing it all. You're doing it from like thick to wide to small to short. Like it's all beautiful. The lumps, and the bumps.
Diversity for health. That's my current motto. Yes.
I mean, that's what Leonardo da Vinci, the first caricaturist. Did you know this? Dale?
Well, I knew that. Well, I knew he did cartoons.
He was.
I didn't really think
he was the first caricaturist. He actually liked to draw like people who was disformed and disfigured, and also people with like learning differences and stuff, because he found it fascinating, you know. And through that drawing, he started a movement, of a whole bunch of other people doing caricatures. Was like a fancy thing back in the day. They used to have like parties and stuff for the kings and queens and stuff.
I've drawn. I was part of a life drawing group for years, and I've drawn people in different ages, races, genders, people who've had serious injuries. It teaches you a lot about the human condition. I mean, it's some of these models, they were actually recommended to become models so they could become more comfortable with what they were dealing with. And, you know, that's how you would tell who the beginners were in a drawing group is we used to get kids over from San Jose State. They would come to do life drawing. They were new at it, and they were disappointed that it wasn't the standard Andrew Loomis superhero, 7-head figure tall person. But you have to learn to draw someone very skinny, someone who has a lot of subcutaneous fat. You get lost in those forms, like the nose and the ears, and tracing those wrinkles. And
you can get infinitely lost in any sort of part of anything. Like really, the more you sort of study it, the more depth you'll find of things to look at.
Well, like the things I guess like people, I guess traditionally would find like not to be attractive, like as a caricaturist, I find attractive. Like to Dale's point, like when it's like a lot of wrinkles in the face, I think it's really beautiful. It's fascinating for me to explore through drawing, like because there's so much I can interpret, and it's giving you so much information. You could see the history of what that person has lived through the face. I've had like other like I think I've had like kids or people with like I don't know some type of like I'm missing an eye or something I was drawing, and I will about to draw like they're like they have an eye, and I've had someone be like no draw them without the eye because we love them that way, like this is what we like about them, do it. And then I've had the opposite where they're like, hey, draw them with an eye, so it just depends on the person, communication. Being as nice as possible.
You try and find out what they want. I mean, do you grab, like when you first see somebody, do you sort of grab on something and say, that's what I'm going to do? Oh, they've got a big nose, or oh, they've got lots of wrinkles.
Right. It depends on the person, because sometimes it can be like, oh, that's their feature. That's the thing. That's like kind of like identifies them. Sometimes there's someone I'm like, I'm not really certain. I got to really just feel this out or draw it out. Hopefully
some people that have very obvious sort of faces, caricature, they almost look like a cartoon anyway, and then other people sort of have a more sort of generic face, and it's very difficult. I was always right now it'd be very easy. I do quite a big nose. I'd start with the big nose.
That's the classic, right?
The beard and the back, and I'm more or less done.
I have a large nose and large lips, so that's like my go-to as well. I have a theory that like if you like take a certain like feature that's your identifier, meaning it's like the thing that makes up your face, that's like your like most identifying feature. If you just put that alone on a wall and like your family member passed by, they'd be like, oh, that's Chuck's nose. Like they would just know immediately.
Good,
because it's like the thing that identifies you, right?
To sort of boil someone like that's even the most like Al Hirschfeld or someone like that, maybe who's just like doing a few little lines that sort of really you'll definitely move that way in your work. I mean, you're definitely sort of minimal in the amount of lines.
Well, because it was such an epiphany. Am I saying that right? Epiphany.
It was like to got a little girl, you can name him Epiphany.
It was like so like. My manager Ryan Rill was like, so you have to learn how to minimize what you're doing because you want to draw as minimal features as possible to do caricatures because it keeps it clean and you're able to get more of a likeness that way, and it just it doesn't bog it down. I mean, there's artists like Kruger or like what's the John. I'm not thinking about it. I forgot his name. Oh, it's John Optabeek, like who are able to do like a lot of detailed drawings, but they're still minimizing like what they're doing. And in cartooning and caricatures, that's essentially what you're doing. You're keeping it minimal. It's just minimizing everything you see around you. That's all cartooning really is, essentially. Just the basic forms. So like, I was like, okay, minimize. That's easy. Let's do it. And I found it challenging. Terribly challenging. And then it was like kind of like dawned on me. It's like, wow, so wait a minute. Like going minimum is just as hard, maybe even harder than going super detailed.
Yes.
That's crazy.
So, you like that challenge. Yes, that's part of what I like about cartooning in a way, is the hardness of it, in that, there's so many different things to think about and to consider, and you're trying to end up with something very simple.
Yeah.
But you know,
Also
that simple
complex.
drawing could be a solution to lots of complicated problems. Like they're your like what solution the artist found.
Right.
Yeah.
The idea is that you want to do something simple that's also looks complicated. That you can tell that has thought in it. Like even though it's super simple, you can just look at it like someone spent like hours, if not days, thinking this up. You know. And then also surprisingly, I was watching Gordon Ramsay. The UK Kitchen Nightmares.
Amazing. You're talking about being energetic. At one point, he had about 6 different shows on. You know,
I know. That man is. I'm like, his children must be neglected. Like, Jesus, take it easy, Gordon. Like, you got enough money, bud.
You're assuming that that's the same Gordon Ramsay. You have to remember that.
What?
That
Go on.
When the comedian Gallagher was at his height, he had, I think it was his brother, perform as him because they.
There's Gallagher too, but then Gallagher too wanted to keep the act, so then they had to split the act between them.
Really? Is that true?
So there could be more than one Gordon Ramsay.
It's possible.
All you have to do is hire someone who looks like Gordon Ramsay.
That's all you got to do. He has such a distinctive face, though. I mean, really hard. I'm not rolling it out.
Ideal British person. He plays the spirit of empire that we want to preserve.
So they hire lookalikes for Queen Elizabeth all the time. So,
they would do the same for Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah,
he's just as important.
Probably different person, but yeah.
Well, he goes around, he shouts at people. Like when they don't understand him, he shouts at them in English.
So I'm sorry, dealing with people.
Yes, this is where I'm tying it to. So give me a chance here. So like he was like, I like the UK Kitchen Nightmares because they would go to actually decent restaurants, and then he would have like something to say. And he went to like
in the beginning, yes.
Yeah. So he went to like a very richy restaurant, and they're like, "Hey, we're not getting business. What's up?" You know. And then he met with like this chef who wanted to be like a Michelin star, right? Chef. And he was like, hey, here's how you do it. This is how you become a Michelin star chef, is that you have to like simplify your dish. There's too many like ingredients in it. Like simplify it so I can like, you know, designate what I'm tasting at a time. And I was like, that's what I'm learning. I was learning that at exact same time.
Yeah.
When I was drawing Kira, like, and then I was like, wow, it's art's everywhere. You know?
Yeah, that's great. Yes, that's great. Yes. He's a big simplifier, or like their menus. Like he wants to strip things off the menu. You know. So
yeah. He does talk about
you
that.
Go. These are your things, and yes, and it has a very clear sort of plan about that. Yes.
Yeah. Then after that, I guess I kind of focus on minimalists, and then I also started like become like more like inspired by Japanese caricaturists, which is like some of the best caricature artists that ever have existed.
Ooh, yes. Well, I love Asian landscapes. So like changing subject from caricatures. Like I started doing these maps of landscapes. So kind of like the search finds just the background without all the people in it. And I'm really kind of enjoying it, you know. And I've always loved sort of looking at a sort of Asian, you know, those drawing, you know, landscapes where you can just sort of go wandering all around them. You know, that's
and if you look at any Japanese art from any time period, there's a minimalist to it.
Yeah.
Almost cartoony.
When you say minimalist,
yes, it's in their head, and yes, then they've always had more of a sort of, you know, this is as a sort of form of style that's sort of been established, and follows it a lot more, and that's somewhat in Western, and it's sort of less in Britain. Like in Britain, it's sort of more embraced just to sort of be very different, I suppose. You know, like rather than following the style. Like in the US, is a little more sort of following the sort of the style. So yes, that's a sort of interesting aspect of art, which I never really quite understand. Yes, I definitely kind of grew up more in the being trained to sort of not to copy and to do my own original. Yeah. And that's one of the things that draws me to your work. I find it very, very original. Yeah. So
right, I was the same way, but like I guess caricatures kind of had to force me to like be like, I'll study, like don't try practicing, which is like is a useful technique. Dale, were you going to say something?
Well, when you're talking about minimalism and Chuck brought up Japanese minimalism. Are we talking about emphasis on line and a minimum amount of lines?
I think that's associated with it, but also like the shapes is more like you're seeing more basic shapes of like circles, triangles, like they're way more evident. Well, an artist that really inspired me, I met at the convention. Well, I didn't really talk to him, but like I just saw him from afar. I just creeped at him. I'm like, oh, he's so good. And that was Tomo Kazutaba, something like that. But he just goes by Tomo.
Tomo, yeah.
And he is like, when he does like a really detailed drawing, it really is like a fusion of like both being so simplified but also so detailed at the same time. It's like it's pretty mind blowing how he's able to achieve that, you know. And if you look at his artwork, it is very like you get the traditional like type of anime manga type of like
Tomo
look to it, like Tomo.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's probably as I started to find my own style. That was like one of the major artists that kind of helped me there. And then this isn't a Japanese artist, but he's another appreciator of Japanese caricatures. And his art, I don't know, I can tell has a lot of influence of anime and manga, which is Andy Urzua, Urza. I don't think that's him.
Is this a different Toho?
Yeah, try Tomo and then Caricature. He should come up.
Caricature, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I think this is it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, this
That's
one.
it.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that like some of either it's digital art or he did it in paint. No, that's definitely digital. So, yeah, he's got some really good ones. He did like a really good Harry Potter one, a Lady Gaga one was really good.
Is this is all Tomo?
I don't know if all of it is
extremely heavily rendered.
But yeah, well, these wrote some interesting caricatures. This is good, Mr. Bede.
Yeah. That's a good one.
That's Will Smith. There we go.
That's very topical, isn't it?
Yeah.
No. Oh yeah, there's another artist named Andy Urzua, Urzua, which is like part of the Beast Head caricaturist. Which I don't know if you guys know the Beast Heads. I don't know.
How do you spell his last name?
Urzua, and hopefully now be careful because he, sometimes he draws like body parts of certain types. So let's be careful here. But nonetheless, so he's also was actually a big influence to me because he's very simplified, super simplified.
Oh, hello.
Oh yeah, he's been doing like a thing where he like just finds random food and he draws a face out of it.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, okay. This is good. Yes. Okay. Yes. I see. This is sort of like a little more sort of similar to some of the things that you're doing here. This is quite extreme, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So the Beast Heads were like extreme caricatures.
That's like, oh my goodness, yeah.
Like Andy's like theory, which Chuck, I think you've met him, and maybe you have Dale too, because he's been to some of the drinking draws, and like his theory was like it doesn't matter if it looks like them. He's just taking influence from what he's seeing.
That is great. Yes, if it doesn't matter. Yes, okay. So I was really like when I was just
which was like I've always because I'm a caricature snob, so I was always like, oh, I don't know about those Beast Heads. Oh, they're too wild and crazy. It doesn't look like they're not getting a likeness and whatnot. But as I grown older,
feel like I have to. I feel an obligation. But yes, when I was doing this sort of Dying Earth illustration for Goodman Games. And I was sort of reading the Dying Earth books, but then I felt like very liberated in terms of how I illustrated it because it was for the game, the RPG. So it didn't need to be exactly what I was reading in the book. I could interpret it and change it, and it was sort of very freeing to be able to do that.
And so
I did much better work because I wasn't feeling that constraint.
Right. That's essentially the Beast Heads, like kind of ideology. And they would pair that with like the idea of pushing the exaggerations like past its limits. Like you're trying to exaggerate as much as possible.
What is he doing here? That's crazy. Look at that.
It's very interesting. So like I think he's probably like I said, he like bases off of Japanese caricature artists as well. And so you see a lot of simple shapes, right? Like a lot of basic shapes.
Well, I can also see an influence of Flash cartooning style.
Yeah.
Because
like me as well.
Adobe Flash, which is now Adobe Animator, you had to draw in a certain way because it was a vector drawing program.
Right.
And you brought up Getty from what's the
Gendy, yeah.
last name?
Like Turkowski or
Yeah.
Turkowski, something like
That did you ever? This may have been. You may be a little young for this, but did you ever go to the Spike and Mike animation festival?
I caught it on like DVD like later, but I never.
Okay, because Getty's early work, No Neck Joe, that was like
I have heard of this.
that.
Yeah.
The character design, I can see elements of that in what you were just showing, those Beast Head caricatures. Because
You're right.
elements
Well, it's
of Puff Girls and
right, and it's from that '90s era, right? Of like this type of like I don't know. I feel like it's like a callback to like 60s, 50s, like 40s type of cartooning, like Spunko's count. Yeah, like that, where it's like
Yellow Submarine.
Even like to like Yogi Bear and stuff, like.
Like the Hanna-Barbera stuff. Yes,
yeah, Hanna-Barbera is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Yeah. Pink Panther had more of a. I don't know if you watched those as a kid, but with the Pink Panther with the inspector, that was simplified.
Right.
Even the Flintstones, you look at those, and there's kind of
you like the Pink Panther. That's just basically one big nose.
It is in a trench coat.
They're basically our nose with legs.
Or you look at the Flintstones. I mean, the Flintstones are all about these obscene noses, but the girls don't have them.
No.
That's something I saw in drawing pretty girls. I'll see some cartoonists; they won't even bother to put the nose in. They'll expect you to imagine the nose.
Like anime, like noses, like often non-existent.
Yeah, it's
true. It's like boiled down now towards it's a boop. It's a line. Or even sometimes there's a dot.
Line across
it's true. It's so true. Like in the Beast Head like ideology is that you're trying to always like even if you have someone gorgeous. So this is where it could go wrong because I'll be honest with you, there is some like Beast Head artists who are kind of dirt, not really the best of people, but like this is where it kind of got wrong. But it's kind of fun in which like you try to draw something that is not attractive or would not be considered attractive. So if someone's beautiful in front of you, they're not gonna look beautiful in this drawing.
Well, it's complicated. People, I don't know. Yes, I try to sort of be flattering a little bit, but I think I don't often make the best caricature in that way because you really want to be a little bit mean to sort of do it well. Yeah.
Well, this is sort of snobbery in me, but I feel like it's valid in which you're trying to give the person that you're drawing what they want without compromising your own style. Essentially, that's what you're trying to do. So, like, hey, don't be nice. But also, you can have fun. And, as long as it's, all with like good intentions, being nice.
Yeah.
And you're trying, and you're not trying to.
Maybe it's also good to be sort of slightly sociopathic about it and not care.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look at caricatures that people have done at paid gigs. And I did one for a trade show. Sometimes you'll see these caricatures become more like portraits. Flattering portraits, versus being
caricatures. Caricatures.
An ordinary portrait is usually quite flattering, right? Traditionally, portraits, are quite flattering. Somebody commissions you to do a portrait. They pay you a good amount of money, and you
exactly. You're working for money, so it's like you want to make sure they're pleased. Otherwise they're not buying the thing. Especially if you're just doing it off the street. I mean, also it's like most caricature artists, like if you go into Boardwalk, they weren't trained by anyone. They just I don't know how they got into it. they just started doing it, I guess. God bless them.
You can go traveling around Europe, like I did that one year when I was young and travel around, like staying in youth hostels, and I would meet guys who were sort of being cartoonists and would practice. They maybe gone to art school or something, but they basically just would sort of set up where the people were and start doing it.
Which isn't a bad thing, but like that's where you get like some lazy tendencies or some type of bad habits as a caricature artist. Also, like if you're not confident and if you're not like if we're not like on a master level to like do exaggerations, you probably shouldn't. Like like if you're trying to sell something, maybe not. Try to do it a little bit. Push yourself a good amount.
Yeah.
Almost like push yourself creatively, but as what the beast heads do, like no. And typically you want to do like a caricature 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes if it's a bad day. But like they would go longer than that. Sometimes it's like doing a caricature. It's like 30 minutes is the minimum if you're getting a beast head drawing.
Did you keep a clock in your? Did you have a clock at your easel that you would see how long you were taking?
No, it wasn't like there was no clocks like there.
Okay.
But like when you started, yeah, you would be timed.
Well, no, in life drawing groups, we would do poses, like 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, 20 minute, 30 minute. So, you sometimes had to keep an eye on the clock so that otherwise you'd end up with a drawing and you left out a nose or a foot.
Right. No, we didn't really keep time too much. But like when you're starting off, yeah, they would time you like it's usually like 10, 15 minutes. That's as much as if you're doing one person, it should take you 10 or 15 minutes. That's the idea.
Now, do you do any cafe drawings of people? Do you keep a sketchbook where you go and you draw people from life?
I've been trying to do that a little bit more so now. I kind of do that with character design mainly. So like I'll just sketch out people I see in the crowd, and then I'll take it home, and then I'll draw like more like added to it, like robot arms, and I turn them to like
I've never been great.
Some sort of creature.
Yeah, I've never been great about taking my sketchbook. Well, I take it, but I'm not great about using it. I don't know. But when I was working for Minion Games, I went off to a game fair in Germany with James Matthew, Minion Games. And he was saying, "Oh, I thought you were cartoons. Aren't you supposed to be drawing non-stop all day?"
Right.
Probably right. So after that, I did start making much better efforts.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Like, I was in a hiatus. I was in a drawing hole. Like, I wasn't really doing anything. Like, I think, like the doing that caricature thon, I did that like in 2021, I guess. Was the first time I did it. I did it the whole time. And then I didn't draw anything the rest of the year. And like literally once you saw me posting these, that was like the only thing I drew. Like the whole like for real. And then now like I'm kind of like back in the swing of it. And so I'm like, hey, you know what? I should try to draw more.
It's good to have the discipline of doing it every day. I mean, I would my webcomic, I would work in the day, come back and do it at night, and just really have a schedule and sort of stick to it for many years. And then you get better. That's how you get better. Just do a little bit every day. That's the key, I guess. Keep at it. Well, but yeah, I don't do it every day. Yeah, no.
Well, that's what is like I found when I came back to it. I'm like, oh wow, I've improved. Oh, look at this. And then I'm like, oh, I want to keep this going. I want to keep my like this improvement polished up here. I should probably continue. I don't know. I'm at a point where I'm not gonna do it every day. I'm just not going to. I think I'm good enough that like I can just do it like like 3 times a week or 4 times a week. If you're starting off, for anyone watching, it's like do it every day because that's what I did. Like I did that for like probably 3 or 4 years straight, just drawing every day.
Do it every day. Don't judge yourself too harshly, and just let other people do the judging. And you'll find that they actually judge you probably less harshly than you judge yourself.
Exactly.
That was one of the things that there's a drawing teacher who used to teach in Palo Alto at the Palo Alto Arts Center, Jim Smith. And he taught us that drawing was a sport like tennis. If you wanted to be a professional level tennis player, you were practicing every day. You were living it. And that's why a lot of us were going to life drawing like 2 or 3 times a week because you got to put the hours in.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's why. I was going to say
Frank
that's why I
tell you that. Frank Cho would say that he was like that. He trained himself like an athlete to just sort of work very hard, and he trained like an athlete, and he got where he wanted to go. Yes, so there's definitely that aspect to it. But I find tennis. But I worked at a bar at a tennis court centre once.
Yeah.
And tennis players are very stressed out people in general.
Well, they gotta go from here to there. Always back and forth. Yeah, I mean, Dale, that's and Chuck. Like that's why I usually teach my kids. It's like we stretch in the middle. Like that's so important. I mean, there's artists that have to do back surgery or like hand surgery because they've learned.
Yeah.
Like no one taught me that too when we were doing caricatures that you should stretch constantly and also correct your posture. Like notice your posture as well.
Do it on the palm, not on the fingers.
Spider push-ups.
But also just things generally with your shoulders. You know, you can get in a corner and do this. You've got to remember, as an artist, you know, especially with computers and all that, you know, that your shoulders, you know, all the muscles in your fingers, they're controlled by these, but it really goes all the way up through your body. You know, so you've got to remember, number one rule: stand up once every 20 minutes, engage your big muscles here. That apparently has phenomenal benefits on your health. Just doing that, yeah,
because you're sitting down too, like you're using that.
That's the irony of being a figure artist, is that you learn enough anatomy as a figure artist that when things start going wrong, like carpal tunnel or back problems, you know the anatomy, why it's gone wrong, and you have only yourself to blame.
Well, you know, like artists are only concerned with very surface anatomy, though. You know, whereas a lot of these things are to do with our sort of deeper anatomy, our deeper muscles that are really hidden to artists, generally speaking. Yeah,
I think you're right because, especially when I started to do it like professionally, I wasn't teaching. Like I was like just drawing a lot, and my back was just so sore, and so I had to correct my posture. And then after like a week of doing that, my back got stronger. I was like, I just used some muscles that were just like not being used. Essentially, like I started engaging them. You know, like it's really
physical
important.
aspects to it. You know, you might think, it's a sort of mental activity, but yes, there's a lot of physicality to it.
I mean, that's why we drew so much. That's why we say draw every day, because what you're doing is that you're just training the muscle memory in your hands to like better use the tool, whether it's a pen or pencil or tablet or whatever. Like you're just training your muscles to better handle the tool that you're using, like tennis or like in hockey, you know, or like in baseball. They have a tool that they're training to use.
Yes.
You know,
and trying to reach the point where, you know, you are mastering the tool, the tool mastering you.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to always get the better of you some days, you know. But if you keep up the practice on figuring out that tool, and also just really like explore it, have fun with it.
Trying different things.
From different angles, like try different positions, turning your one that was a big one is turning your pen or turning your pencil, turning it around, you know, finding every edge of it.
That's interesting. Yes.
Yeah.
And then I heard a good one the other day watching the Roger Dean's live streams. He was when he was filling a large area, like he changes the direction of his strokes.
Right.
You know, so you don't sort of fill it all in like the same way. You sort of do, you know, like this, and you know, then it sort of feels more cohesive. You know, that
get better at working every angle.
Yeah.
You know, it's only going to help you out.
One of the things that I saw years ago, which they never taught me in art school, is I was watching Sergio Aragonés' ink cartoon, and he was spinning the paper around, and he was drawing these lines in different angles on the paper. And I didn't realize till later, and I've read this in art books since, you know, if you draw with your right arm, there's only certain angles that you can do a stable line with.
Yes.
And you kind of have to learn what those are and how to compensate if you can't do that angle or you're not steady drawing in a certain direction.
Yeah. Especially with a dip pen, you know, or something, you know, sort of fountain pen or ink pen, you know, they are fairly specific about which ways and what you can do with them. But you can learn. I mean, you know, when you see somebody who's really great with a croquoil pen, you're like, wow, you know, they're just really controlling all those.
Yeah, I don't even get it. I don't even know how to do I don't know how to use those pens.
Greg, we've been going like an hour and a half. I don't know. That's probably that's you know, I don't. That's probably a good show. I don't know. We did pretty well.
Yeah,
We
I
had
think
some
so.
viewers. Yes, so good. Thank you,
Yay.
viewers. We didn't get any comments.
Okay.
If you got any comments,
No, whatever.
we'll take them.
They were
but I
just
think
too
we're
busy listening. It
Yeah.
was too engaging.
Yeah.
That's why.
We'll talk about
Well, it's been
Zardoz
another
next
great
time.
chat in the series. You know, I
No,
think
I know we barely talk about Zardoz. I'm highly
Yeah.
disappointing. I
Well,
don't know if I'll do this again if we don't talk about Zardoz.
okay. Well, okay, well, let's have a quick talk of Zardoz. I don't know if you've got anything.
Oh,
to add
there
to
it is! Oh my goodness, he's been inducted.
The gun is good. Well, I'm not.
We're not going to go there.
We're not gonna go. Awesome. All right. Well, if y'all are done,
Killing is Zardoz intended.
yeah. If you ever want to talk about caricatures or any other nerd stuff, I'm like, I guess an expert at. I don't know.
Send me a friend request on Facebook.
Well, Greg, if
Yes,
people
sir.
want to find your work,
Well,
where's
I thought we are friends, Dale.
Are we? I can't remember. Hang on.
Pretty sure we are. Dale's too cool. He doesn't even know what friends he's got.
I'm terrible with names.
You know.
Oh yeah, we are.
We are friends.
What am I talking
Was I thought that meant something to you, Dale, when you accepted my friendship.
I'm a terrible friend.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Are you all gonna do like y'all feel comfortable hosting movies, doing movie parties again?
I'm not.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, not quite
Try
yet.
this.
But I would like to do some more of that. Yes, for sure. I've found these ones of yours as well. These are great.
Yeah. That was when I was like, I want to impress someone. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm ready to draw
Yeah.
professional. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yes.
How do I do
Yes.
it? It was which was like how I started. But then I kind of figured it out. I guess that's also what I
That's
learned.
nice.
It's like when I just get in that mindset of like, all right, I'm gonna draw professional. All right, I'm gonna
Yes.
draw like this. Like sometimes that's all you kind of need. Just get to that point where like I gotta look for it. How do you do it? And I just get into this observe. I just observe.
Oh, that's old school.
I know, right? I love the Warriors.
The Warriors.
That's like one of my top favorite movies of all time. Like,
Oh, yeah,
easily.
and you dig it.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
brother-in-law
yeah.
loves that movie as well. Yeah.
That was like for someone's comic.
Okay, but that's pretty cool. I love that. Yeah.
I like drawing it. Yeah, I was doing
A
like
lot of
some-
Zardoz references in the Warriors.
Oh yeah,
Is
which
that
which,
right?
which one? Which part?
I don't know yet. Usually when I hear a movie, I say that automatically.
Hey, you're gonna find it. You're gonna find some wilder reference.
Yeah. Definitely, you need to create a game 1 degree of Zardoz.
I don't know. I can see the worlds fusing together. Because I mean, I don't think the Warriors was post-apocalyptic, but that kind of felt like it.
Yeah, a little.
You know. I think it was just a comment in the '70s and how like crazy it felt being in New York. I guess.
Yeah, my favorite was the Baseball Furies.
Oh yeah, I know. They were like they were genuinely cool. There's a lot of campiness within that movie, but like there's also like I guess that's why I like it because it's kind of cool too. Like,
No,
genuine.
it's a costuming.
Yeah, I know. But they were like, if you saw that down the street, a gang of people with paint and baseball bats, you'd shit your pants. You'd be, are we done? I forget this is a kid. Like, you'd poo your trousers, you know, if you saw like a Roman gang of baseball painted thugs.
Yeah, but well, nowadays you just assume they're musicians. You know?
Yeah, or they're going like, oh, they must be going to the Castro.
There's
I like your one from Get Out. This is great with the teacup. Look at that.
Yeah, I was really trying to go a little more realist.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great image for that. Yes, that's great.
Yeah.
That's
It
nice.
was like a band I was following in Stone Chat. I don't think they're together. Well, I did that for a Maurice Sendak gallery thing. Like,
Yeah.
They were like doing their art, and then that artwork like traveled with Maurice Sendak's art. It was cool.
What?
Yeah, my art like traveled around the country. You know?
Oh wow.
Yeah, part of the Maurice Sendak like show. And we'll
Oh,
show
yeah,
like his
okay.
like original artwork and some other pieces as well.
Yes, I love Maurice Sendak.
Yeah. He's a really great children's writer. Like really good. Revolution.
Yes. Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Was it Iggity Piggity Pop or something like that? That's one of my favorite
Yes.
books.
Higglety Piggity Pop.
Yeah,
I can't
I
remember.
really like that book a lot.
Yeah. I have a book of all his sort of like stage and theatre designs and things that he did. That's all very interesting. Sort of like later work after the children's books more.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Well, because he, people would ask him to do all sorts of things. I mean, here's some of your comments. There's Laser Dog.
Yes, in all their glory.
You said Laser Dog's very extreme. Yeah, you're like, yes.
Yeah, and it was spawned by caricatures. Yeah, it was spawned by caricatures too. Like Laser Dog would not have happened if caricatures didn't exist.
Yeah.
It was created by other fellow caricatures as well.
Yes, it's very, again, you don't use lots of words. It's very sort of visual and visceral and like, all this sort of crazy stuff.
Well, I love like non-verbal comics.
Yeah.
I love non-verbal comics. Like, I don't know, there's something like really like beautiful and gentle about them, but also like, I don't know. I guess because I don't read, I'm not really a strong reader. So like looking at images in the comic book was kind of all I did. So like to do a comic that has some words, you're only telling a story through your images. Feels it's like art, genuine art.
Yeah, like a panel like this, these panels just sort of so much movement going on, but this is very sort of typical, like in the book. It's just all this sort of visual. Like,
you're gonna get some lasers. I promise you. If you're reading a Laser Dog comic, trust me, there'll be lasers. Well, that's Hamlet Mania.
Oh yes, yes.
I went really crazy on that one.
Yes, that one was. Yes, that was even more crazy. Yes, yes,
yes. To the point where I'm like, I gotta. It's too much. I gotta get better.
You really push it extreme. So you actually have to sort of think quiet when you're looking at it.
Yeah. I mean, the writer I did it with, he was like, yeah, it's like a mystery art. Like, it's a mystery, or you have to like, what's the? You gotta like line your eyes up.
Spend a little time.
Right, and then when you get it lined up, it's
Greg,
an aha moment.
When you were younger, were you into what they called wacky packs or garbage pail kids? Or?
Not too much because I was catching the tail end of it. I was into like if it was like cards and trading cards, it would have been like Pokemon cards, right? Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but also I think they're in the 90s. Oh snap! I got them. There's like these dinosaur cards. That was of dinosaurs just eating humans. That's all it was.
Like Mars Attacks were basically aliens.
Yeah. But it was like very like brutal and gruesome. And I gotta be honest, those cards are probably a huge influence on my art. like a giant influence because they're just like there's like certain imagery like my dad was like loved like horror stuff and he's the one who like hipped us up to like the Warriors and stuff. So like he would have like magazines of Fangoria and stuff like that lying around. I don't know. And there's this one magazine which I still have. I'm gonna show you all this, Dale and Chuck, at some point. In which it's totally like I freaking would just stare at the cover and just freaking loved just looking at. And it was a lot of like the art I do now, which is like a whole bunch of stuff, whole bunch of creatures all over the page, and just looking at each one of them, it was like it's like art.
You're basically blaming your dad, like I am. I blame my dad for.
Oh, easily, yeah, because he like also hates that I do cartoons. A little bit. He's like, you're watching too many cartoons. Like, Dad, you watch so much cartoons. He's like, no, I don't. Like, yeah, you do. Why are you lying to me? I once got like when Boomerang came around, he went nuts because he loves like Hanna-Barbera. Hanna-Barbera is probably his favorite, and so he would just be watching that and then go online and watch more cartoons. And I'd be like, you watch a lot of cartoons, but he doesn't remember that now.
Yeah, well, now you're a cartoonist, so
right?
Can't help it. His other son's a police officer, correct?
Yes, and a doctor.
And a doctor. So yeah, so having a cartoonist in the family.
Well, someone's got to do
you've got a nice spread there. That's great.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. All right, gang. Yeah, thanks for inviting me on. This was fun.
Oh, thanks for coming, Greg. It's been really great. Actually, we've learned a lot today. It's good. Yes, well, it's been a great series here of talking to like different people and what they do. And we hadn't talked at all about caricature. We really learned a lot today. So thank you, and very inspirational. I'm thinking of the young artists out there who might be looking at this one day and saying,
"Salute you! You're going to surpass me someday." They're the future, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I mean, I do look at artists and young artists. I'm like, hey, you're way better. I was a kid, I wish I was grown up in a YouTube type environment where like everything's like.
Where all the instructions free.
But in the end of the day, the talent is there, but you have to work either way, and if someone, with less talent will overcome the person with more talent if they work harder, and that's the simple fact to it. Yes.
Well said, Chuck.
All right. Well, I guess I'm going to play the theme music. Hang around. I want to have a little goodbye chat after the music.
Yes,
but I'm going to say goodbye to the viewers now and play the Itsy Bitsy Spider song. Don't forget, you've still got a few more days to go back. Itsy Bitsy Spider on Kickstarter. Thank you, everybody who's watched. We had various people coming and going, and more people will be looking at it in the future. And so thanks, Dale Sipley, as always. Thank you very much to Greg for that enlightening chat. And tomorrow we'll have Kimberly Vaz, who will be talking to us about her book, Pretty But Dumb. And she's also a licensed hypnotherapist. So she'll be hypnotizing everybody into backing Where's Itsy Bitsy Spider Kickstarter. And then we have Dr. Timothy Duran is returning on Wednesday to grade our little project. He was with us right at the beginning. He'll be back to
homework.
Talk about our Paleolithic ancestors. And then Thursday, we're having like an all day or all morning from 9 till 2 when the Kickstarter finishes, marathon broadcast. So we're inviting anybody to come and check in, say hi. Guests come back. Greg, if you want to come back and pop in and say hello at some point on Thursday. We'll be here all morning. And all right, so that's it. I'm going to put on the video now. See you tomorrow.
I'm just going up this water spout, y'all. Y'all, hope it don't rain.
The itsy bitsy spider climbed up the water spout. Down came the rain and washed the spider out. Out came the sun and dried up all the rain. So the itsy bitsy spider climbed up the spout again. Dried up all the rain, so the itsy bitsy spider climbed up the spout again. Going up the spout again. Going up the spout again.